Welcome to Your Intended Message, the perfect place for leaders and promising professionals who want to convey the intended message for greater success. Every week, we interview experts who can help you communicate more effectively, whether that's one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many. And perhaps the most important conversation, one-to-self. I'm your host, George Torok. My guest today is Sarah McVanel. Here's 3 facts I think that you should know about Sarah. 1, she's a professional speaker, trainer, coach, and author of 5 books. And I'll mention 2 or 3 that jump out to me that sound a little strange. The Frog Effect Workbook. Forever Recognize Others' Greatness. Now, I like that title. And here's another strange one, Flip Side of Failing. Perhaps we'll explore what the meaning is behind that. The second fact about Sarah is that when she's not traveling, her virtual studio and home office is in a 3-story restored barn. And it was originally built to house women during World War II who came from across Canada to help work the fields while the men were at war. Mm-hmm. And the third fact about Sarah, as a child, she earned awards for dance and picked it back up at age 40, taking tap dance and hip hop classes. And she's been known to embarrass her children by posting her routines on Instagram.
And sometimes now TikTok too. So I'm really getting in trouble from them these days. Yes.
Yeah. I saw your mom on TikTok. What's she doing there?
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the question. What is she doing there?
Sarah McVanel, welcome to Your Intended Message.
Thanks, George. It's great to be here.
Wonderful talking with you today. You are known as Canada's recognition expert. Some call you the Chief Recognition Officer for your organization and perhaps the clients that you work with. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to recognize others? What's the point?
Well, one of my favorite definitions of the year is Brené Brown's definition of connection. Connection is the energy that exists when people feel truly seen, heard, and valued. I really have seen this work as a recognition expert over the last year, particularly since COVID, of rebuilding connection. We all need, in fact, my roots are in psychology. So humanistic psychology, we've learned that people need to feel valued. They need a sense of belonging. We're hardwired to belong. That is part of our human needs, basic human needs for survival. And we somehow lose our way with that. We feel that the corporate designations and our titles and our bank balances seem to matter more than relationships, when in actual fact, what we realize are the most successful leaders, the most successful organizations, the most successful people in their personal lives are ones that allow people to feel valued and seen and heard and appreciated. So I see myself in the business of helping people create deep and meaningful connections at work, at home, and in their career.
I imagine that during the pandemic, it's even more important for people to feel connections because often the only way we're connected is through a Zoom call.
Yes. Yeah.
And so does that mean that leaders need to be more consistent in recognizing others and making them feel valued? Can they go overboard?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of really key points that you raised there. Overboard is one, and how do we connect in this digital world? So why don't we talk about digital first? And then I'd love to dive into that worry that a lot of leaders have, George. It's a really important worry that, can I go overboard then? So let's go to the current reality of world. And our world, frankly, will not be as dramatically different as when we went into it. 4% of organizations had a very key remote workforce or a portion of their workforce, the projection is that 27% on the other side of this. Of course, there's a much bigger percentage of people right now. However, we're going to have a much bigger contingent of our remote workforce. And we don't want to sacrifice connection, relationships, collaboration, and of course, appreciation. So interestingly, one of the biggest things I spoke about in 2020 was, in fact, how to create strong virtual recognition. And the great news is, for anyone who's concerned that we can't have that in a remote, virtual, digitally divided world, the human experience crosses the digital divide. I can appreciate you, George, for your energy and your due diligence that you put towards each one of these podcasts, and that you have very, very strong appreciation and value for your listeners. I see that through everything that you do, from our pre-call to this conversation. And I can share that with you. Honestly, genuinely, I mean that. And I could say that to you in person. I could also say that to you here. So for anyone who's concerned that recognition is not possible in the virtual world, what I ask you to consider is, how did you do it when you were face to face? And how could you do that in this remote virtual world? And I think what we find is just about everything we do is slightly adaptable. In your virtual team meetings, in your, even your virtual celebrations with your family, you can mimic those experiences, and if anything, keep them even stronger for on the other side of this, when we're able to physically come together more. So that's one thing I would say, is that the core ways, and we can get into this too if you'd like, the core ways everybody wants to be appreciated are not relegated to only the face-to-face world. I'm happy to get into that now, or we can kind of jump to the other part about too much. Where would you like to go next, George? Choose your own podcasting adventure.
You've opened a door, and we'll come back to the too much. But you've opened up the door on the core ways to recognize people in this digital world. What can a leader do? Tell me what to do. Tell me how to make my people feel valued.
Just ask my husband. I'm happy to tell people what to do. Yes. The top 3 ways that people want to feel valued and appreciated. In fact, let me ask you, George, if you could only pick one way that people could show that they value you for the rest of your life, what would that way be?
Oh boy.
And now I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. And good question. One is send me money on a regular basis.
Yes. And we'll take all forms of payment. Yes.
Make sure the check clears. Yeah. I suppose, if people just say something, and well, okay, I'll tell you what doesn't work.
Yes. That's a great way to do. I love that. Yes. Tell me what doesn't work.
And here's, so I'll mention Facebook. Facebook has this algorithm that it knows when your birthday is, because you had to put it in there. And so all the people connected with you, they send you these automated messages. They don't even know me.
Yes.
And I don't so when my birthday comes up, I don't open Facebook for at least 2 weeks.
Oh, I hear you.
Because it's not, I don't believe that they're real, that they really mean it, versus someone who sends me a direct email or direct message, not just posting on Facebook for everybody to see. Look, I wish Tim happy birthday. Aren't I a great Facebook friend? No, you're not. So that's what annoys me. So yes, it's the personal recognition. Go out of their way, and we're both speakers, and it's nice to get recognition from an audience. But what what I really treasure is when I get a handwritten note from an individual who got something of value and tell me that. Those I still treasure. I keep them. I have them in a shoebox, and because they're handwritten, they're mailed.
I just got one yesterday. Yes, absolutely.
So that's somebody who actually, went out of the norm, didn't just, send off a quick email, which takes no effort at all. So that's what.
Absolutely. Preach, George, preach. Yes, absolutely. Top 3 ways. And this will just reinforce everything that you shared. So see, we're all recognition experts because we know the way. think that it's more complicated than how it is. So yes, number one way, 95% of people say, just tell me thank you. Make sure it's sincere. If it's culturally appropriate, look me in the eye. You can do that digitally. You could do that face to face. Look me in the eye and tell me thank you. Number two, 92% of people say, make it personally specific. I don't care what the medium is. It's like if somebody sends you that Facebook message for your birthday, that's generic. But if it is, do you remember the time in grade 8 when we went and played hooky on your birthday? Oh my God, I always think about you. We're so young. Now that would be worth, right? Wouldn't you love that? Personalized and specific. And then number three, to your point, a written thank you. 88% of people say a written thank you. Now, I'm happy to share for you to put in the show notes. I've actually found an app that I can create, quote, handwritten thank you notes by typing it into my phone, but customizing the card so that even when I'm not physically able to see people, and maybe even the mail's a little bit slower, no offense to our, postal services, but it's a little slow with all of the parcels and online ordering we're doing. I can send it to somebody's home. It get printed in their country. So it gets to them even faster than probably I'd be able to get it from my home with a great big fat stamp on it. So those are the three ways. And to your point, what doesn't work is generic blanket messages, whether it be on a Facebook wall or an email to all staff. I'll tell you, my husband and I had we had a huge laugh. It was apparently Employee Appreciation Day a couple of weeks ago. My husband's a teacher. He's had to work very hard to adjust. He's completely rebuilt his programs. He's teaching from home. He loves being in front of the classroom. And so this has been a huge shift for him. And he's also 17 years into his teaching career. So this is a very new thing for him. And he's worked so hard. Well, what was the staff appreciation? It was the exact same message as he received the year before, It was sent out at the exact same time. And the only difference is my husband and I joke, there's one line that they change every year. Insert crisis here. So last year it was the strike. This year it's COVID. Mark's like, I wonder what the crisis is. And he messaged a few of his colleagues. Because of course he's married to a recognition expert. So we talk about this all the time. Recognition is kind of our cultural pulse in our house as to how well things are going. If things are stressed, we double down on recognition. That's sort of the relationship currency that we use. So it always occurs to us. We notice, the kids notice when they're not recognized and valued by their teachers. They don't put up with relationships where they don't feel valued. And so my husband and I were having this conversation, and he said, okay, Sarah, as long as you take off which school board I work for, it would be really funny in a keynote to transpose each of these messages and just change the date. And I thought, yeah, you know what? That makes a really good point, because a lot of organizations and leaders think if I just say, hey, great job, George. Thanks so much for, coming in every day. Great. Now I've done it. I've appreciated my people. No. Well, that may work the first time. If it's not personalized and specific, it is not going to work time after time. And the great news is what we just talked about, a thank you, a brief personalized specific message in any form, a thank you card. They take virtually no time, and they cost nothing or next to nothing. I don't know. I think it's not an unreasonable ask for people to lean into recognition. What do you think, George?
I agree that we need to be recognized. And I remember when I started in the workforce eons ago, the company would recognize you after 25 years of service. You'd get a watch.
Just hold on for the 25. You're almost there. Yes.
Yeah, and you'd get that annual review where they'd recognize you by giving you a small bump in your salary usually. And so that was how they recognize you. So leaders have certainly had to go through a massive change to recognize people on a regular basis. And I think that little bits of recognition are stronger than one great big celebration every 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't outsource humanity. If you want your people to be loyal to you, your organization, you as a leader, as you and I'm sure have seen countless studies, the number one reason people provide in exit interviews for why they've left a job or an organization or even an industry is their boss, who they report to, or a series of not so great bosses. So if we want to retain great people, if we want to engage their hearts, that they don't just show up on the job retired, and we want to have them engage in continuous improvement, and frankly, also to reinforce what we're doing well too, because what we get appreciated for and what we appreciate in others is what rises to the surface of what is most important. So to, what I jokingly say to organizations is that if you have outsourced recognition to an external vendor or even to the HR department, as wonderful and human as all of those beautiful HR professionals are, they can't recognize the entire organization. And when they try to do it, it is a blanket, broad, corporate-based initiative. So there has to be an and there. I'm not saying pull away those long service events, because imagine if you got to year 24 and you're like, okay, I've almost got that really nice watch and that really great dinner, and they yank it. You're like, wait a minute, I am almost at the pinnacle. And at the same time, how would you know that you are on the right track if the only way you are validated is you got a bonus? Well, then that becomes part of your expectation. And especially if it's gamified, people's favorites get more bonuses than somebody else, or the boss is too nice and so gives everybody the same raise, or there's actually no real metrics behind why somebody gets a raise or a bonus than others. Not to mention the challenge of whatever you are incentivizing is what people focus on. If you incentivize profits, think about what you are de-incentivizing. If it is an individual award, you are likely to have people become more individualistic, less collaborative, focus on less teamwork, perhaps even less customer centric. If you get rewarded for new clients and not retaining the existing clients, which one are you going to focus on? New clients, right?
Right.
Well, it costs a lot more money to bring in a new client than it is to keep one. So organizations, if you do have significant investment of time, money, energy, and even policy, and that you don't feel there's an appetite to change it, you may be able to make tweaks within your program. So really be careful about how you have built your recognition and reinforcement systems as to if there are the behaviors, expectations, and values that you want to see more of. And if the answer is no, you cannot afford to put it off anymore, because people are not going to be incentivized by getting this sharp pin. Like, if that's what every 5 years we have to look forward to is this sharp object with a little fancy, emblem of the organization. Have you ever seen anybody walk around wearing those? Very few. Maybe Rotary or some service club that you really value. But I have yet to see somebody walking around with their organization's pin on their lapel, and they may well have gotten multiple of them. I could be wrong. I can't wait to hear from a listener who says, oh no, we're proud of those pins. Great. Prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. I would love it. We're spending tons of money on the wrong things. So please tell me we're not wasting money.
Sarah, how does one know whether to recognize a person on the team privately or publicly?
Oh, what a great question. One of the things I suggest to people is that they ask their folks. So on my website, greatnessmagnified.com, under cool stuff, there's a tool called a recognition checklist. So even in my team, where I have a whole bunch of amazing contracted folks who do very specific roles, I had them fill it out too, because even though I'm not their full-time boss, I want to retain them. I've got the best team, and it's taken me 6 years to get them. So I want to make sure I reinforce and appreciate them. So I ask questions like on that tool, and you could use it. Anybody listening could use it. Do you prefer private, public recognition? And on a scale of 1 to 5. So I may be a 4 on public recognition, but I'm a 5 on, let's say, team celebration, and I'm a 1 on individual appreciation. So it allows you to see on a scale of 1 to 5, multiple dimensions of recognition: public, private, individualistic, team, celebratory, quiet. And at the bottom, it asks some kind of quirky questions, such as, do you drink coffee and tea, and what do you keep in it? What's your favorite pizza topping? What's your favorite restaurant? Because a lot of organizations do great things for employees. During COVID, they would send coffee to people's houses during the staff meeting, or, they would send a pizza home to people's houses to say, thanks for working late. And not a lot of people, but, some people. And even a gift certificate. Wouldn't you rather receive a gift certificate to your favorite restaurant than just a generic, everybody gets Harvey's gift cards? Well, what if you're vegan and you have no Harvey's within 100-kilometer radius? So those questions allow you to customize your recognition gestures. And I will tell you, you gain a lot more relationship equity with somebody when you send them a green steeped tea with 2 creamers and 1 sweetener, which is maybe to you, the weirdest way to drink tea. But if that is the way somebody exactly likes it, and then I send yours exactly how you like it, we all get the most delicious tea or coffee that we want. And also, it was clear you took the time to pay attention to me. It's a small gesture, but it starts with asking the question that you asked me, George: how do people want to be appreciated? And it is not hard to figure it out. Ask people, they will tell you. Here's a little example. My videographer, who's completely set up my virtual speaking studio from the ground up, and she's there running tech on all of my live events. And she also captures video, and she turns it around really quickly. Well, things were all falling apart. And I said, hey, it's Friday afternoon. Do you think that we've had a lot of events this week? Can I just give you a beer? And she said, oh yeah, I love beer. I had no idea she liked beer. We worked together 2 years. So I went and brought one up from the basement. Don't ask me, George, why I have beers in my barn. Anyway, so I brought her one, and it totally relaxed the atmosphere. So this weekend I went out, and I live in wine country. So we went and bought all kinds of craft beer. And she also told me, and I love red wine. So right downstairs, I hope she doesn't listen to this before I give it to her. We have 6 bottles of the best red wine I could find from my favorite wineries. I dragged my daughter around, questionable choice, perhaps 15 years old, went to all these wineries with me. And we bought craft beer. And I will always now have her favorite craft beer in the fridge, so that at the end of a busy week of filming, I can bring her, not ask, bring her, hey, you've earned this, here you go. That is how you build relationships and loyalty. And I'm not doing it to bribe her. She came for the last 2 years without me ever giving her beer. However, it's a way to keep her knowing that I so value her. I have beer that is going to be written in my fridge, Stacy's beer. It's hers.
Sarah, now you have that, you mentioned that recognition survey at your site, and the site is greatnessmagnified.com, and the survey is at /cool stuff. In the link, it will be below in the description. Is there a survey or a quiz or a question a leader can ask themselves, saying, who am I missing? What am I missing?
You've got so many great questions. You think you're a speaker for a living. Gosh, you should definitely keep doing this. Yes, I would say often the people who go the most unrecognized are the people that we consider to be negative and complainers. And what I like to say to leaders is that a complaint is merely a poorly worded request. These are not people that we should skip over and not appreciate them, because they make perhaps our lives a little bit more frustrating. They are the fly in the ointment in a team meeting. They maybe require a little bit more hand holding to get through some of their work, not because they don't care. It's just they need to be heard before they're willing to proceed. And so what is their greatness that's sitting there? How are their strengths, skills, needs being expressed in a less resourceful way by it being through a complaint, when actually that may be the exact window into what they most value. So let's say you and I work together and you're complaining about how it's unfair that some of the people aren't pulling their weight, and I and Jenna and Larry all have to pick up the slack. Maybe what I need to do is appreciate that they value fairness. They value hard work. They value quality work. So rather than say, listen, we're all a team here. They obviously know they're a team. They want to work well as a team. I might instead say, you really value quality and you work very hard. And I want to know, I appreciate that. What specifically do you think that we could do in the team to help build a culture of quality? What do you think we can do? And if they still carry on about, oh, you need to fire this person and you need to, like, well, that's not a solution for tomorrow. I bet you any money we can put our heads together and find out how we can do more of X. And by the way, I just want you to know, I so appreciate, and then make it specific what you appreciate related to whatever it is they're complaining about. So if they are your hardest worker and they are your biggest complainer, then appreciate what you want to see more of. Appreciate their hard work, appreciate their output, appreciate their constant suggestions. We see it as negativity and complaining. Maybe it's that they're constantly trying to improve things. Acknowledge and recognize the things you want to see more of. And that will, for leaders, if you're not sure what to appreciate, it's the things people are the loudest about, the most excited about, the most negative about, the most impassioned that they keep bringing it up, whether it's really extreme, positive or negative. If it keeps showing up in their agenda items they want on the list, or topics that they feel are important, it's because it's important to them. And the more we see them as a unique individual that deserves for those things to be understood by you, the more likely we can find a way to acknowledge it.
So leaders got a lot of work to do to build the team and keep everyone involved. They can't simply just show up and have one meeting after another anymore, can they?
Well, it's true. And the good news is, George, it seems like it's a lot of work at first. However, think about on the back end, what leaders are spending their time doing, trying to course correct change initiatives that have gone south. 70% of change initiatives fail completely or fail to achieve results. There's probably a lot of lack of recognition, checking in, making sure people are aligned in the right roles. We can course correct that. Retention and turnover is a huge issue. It costs 2.5 times somebody's salary to replace them, not to mention the burden on mentors and preceptors and coaches, or the money that you have to spend in an onboarding coach, of which I am one, so I know how much it costs. So if you want to retain great people, they'll feel valued. If you want to have a culture of collaboration and continuous improvement where they find the cost savings, the customer retention strategies, the new innovative program or process, we need to value people and make sure that they feel that their ideas and their solutions have a place, they're heard, we can act upon them. Not that we act on everything that people suggest. However, think about how many great ideas get missed because somebody's told themselves a story that, you know what, I don't think it's anybody cares to listen. I might as well just keep it to myself. Or I'll find somewhere else that values my opinion more than this place. So for those leaders who are listening, who feel, I just don't have the time for this, what I would suggest is, you don't have the time not to do this. I thank you a little bit of mental energy and cognitive bandwidth to think about, what am I missing here? How can I keep people? How can I engage this person more? Because I know they're really good at this. Why are they not putting in the energy that they could be? There is something underlying it. And if we see it as that way, if we see it as this is going to save us money, save you leader stress and pain, it's going to actually also reduce the liability and the litigation to your organization. If you have people who are shutting down and quiet and behaving in a small way, it could be because they're being bullied, there's workplace incivility, you're setting yourself up for lawsuits, not to mention the cost of turnover. So know that this energy, this effort is worth it. And the great news is people are loyal to you for so much longer. If you want people turning to you and saying, how is it possible you have the highest retention, that nobody wants to leave your team? You just tell them, because I value my people, because I will move heaven and earth for them, and they will do the same thing for me. And I don't know of a single organization, I don't know a single team, leader, or individual where recognition is not at the center of that belief that we will go to the ends of the earth. We will do whatever it takes to make this work. Recognition is foundational in all of that.
Sarah, a leader who's going to work tomorrow from their home.
Yes.
What one thing could they do at the beginning of the day to make sure that they include recognition within their schedule, within their work plan?
I love that. Yeah, that great question, because that's related to habit stacking. What we know about what makes habits successful is attach a new behavior to one that already exists. So if, let's say, the first thing you do is you turn on your light and then an act of recognition. If it's opening your inbox before you answer something in your inbox, team recognition with it. So for those of you who use Slack, Trello, some other project management tool, you can create, using the Butler, you can create a repeating reminder. So every day it automatically puts a reminder in your calendar. You can put that same thing in your own schedule, your own calendar, whether it be every day, every Friday. You could be Thankful Thursday. So block it in your calendar. That app I was telling you about, that will make sure we put in the show notes. I have set birthdays for everybody that I know, because you're right, you can find them on Facebook very easily. I put in people's birthdays. So even if I've only spoken for a client once and I sent them a photo card of us at an event, I'll send them a birthday card and acknowledge, like, oh, hey, I hope I beat your mother to the punch and I sent you your birthday card. And also we use the anniversary time blocking in that card based on what their first name is. So A and B gets a January card, C and D gets they get a February card, so that every year I reach out to people and I send I'm thinking about your card. And it's not that I wouldn't think about them in general. It's just, I may be thinking about them while I'm on a run or in the shower or trying to go to sleep. So my phone is not there, nor would it be healthy if I were constantly attached to my phone. So it's a little bit of a reminder, a mental hack, and it reduces my anxiety. And I say that in a very loose way. I don't mean clinical anxiety, my worries that I might forget somebody, because I know my app will cue me, hey, it's March. Here are 15 people to show your appreciation to. And then when it cues me, I'm like, oh, right, George. Yes, cool. All I need to have is them in my system, and I can create alerts for myself. So those are a few hacks that I suggest to my clients. Do you have any suggestions and ideas, George? What do you do, or what could you suggest?
Well, I'll tell you what appealed to me from what you just said, Sarah. One was to actually schedule your thank yous, and I wrote down the phrase "Thankful Thursday." Now that is cool. I like that. That appeals to me, and that helps make it regular and even fun.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. The leadership tasks don't have to be drudgery. And this is quick side note. This is what I get so excited about with recognition, is that it shifts the script that I have too much to do as a leader. I don't have enough energy for my people. I'm overwhelmed. All of that is true. And when we find little chunks of time and we enjoy what we're doing. So if, let's say, you're a leader and you don't want to write thank you cards, maybe the app's better. And if you don't like that, pick up the phone, send somebody a text. there's lots of ways that we can express recognition and appreciation. And if the only way you're going to appreciate people is if you text them, because, yeah, somebody says, I'd like a team celebration. And you're just like, that's so not me. I'm sorry, but I cannot do that. A text regularly sending people on Thankful Thursdays, hey, I'm thankful to you today. George, I just want to let you know, thanks so much for, having this podcast. I'm really grateful. I listen to it every week. Wouldn't you rather get that, even if you would prefer a coffee and a gift certificate? Wouldn't you rather at least get the text, even if you didn't? Because it's not like in that moment you go, oh, I bet you he was thinking I could give him a coffee or a gift certificate, but I've decided for a text instead. No, in the moment you get caught up in, oh my gosh, out of the blue, my boss just sent me a message, or my colleague. It's not just the boss's job. This is a habit we all need to be in. And then when somebody joins in a formal leadership role, it is already a habit that you have built in. And if you want to have a dynamic career where people want to work with you, they remember you, make recognition part of your career language. And it's not just something you have to force, it's who you are as a humanistic leader, as a humanistic professional. And this is what we know to be different between those who are okay as a leader and those who have this really deep network, authentic, real network, not the number of followers, actual people. If you were in a crisis, you could call them up and they would do whatever you asked. It's that people remember you, and they will not remember you if they don't feel valued by you at some point in your collective career. So that's what I suggest, is start now. No matter what your title says, start now.
Start now. A good message to wrap up on. My guest today is Sarah McVanel, reminding you that a complaint could be merely a poorly worded request.
Mm-hmm.
If you like what you heard, remember to like, comment, and share this podcast. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you convey your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.